All systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on, SHIPIT Nation YouTube station? We're back. Got my guy Hoop with me. Coming off a nice weekend of football. Congrats to him. Congrats to Tambo. Congrats to many other members over here at SHIPITNation.com. Continue to smash. If you guys are new, hit that like button. Hit that subscribe button. Hoop, I'll bring you in. We got a nice 11-game slate here tonight, but you're coming off a big weekend, as many other members are. How you doing, man? Happy Monday.
It's the least the football gods could do for me is giving that DFS win after the Lions shit the bed, obviously, in pretty disappointing fashion. You're up 24-7 at the half. I mean, I was already looking at my tickets to head out to Vegas for the game. I was a little premature, obviously. Josh Reynolds forgot how to catch a football and some other dumb shit along the way. But, yeah, had a good day, obviously, in the DFS streets. Big boy NBA slate, like you said, 11 games, and this is when I'm going to, start transitioning a little more into the NBA streets. Been pretty focused in on NFL. Now we got this 2-week break before the Super Bowl. Big slate, a lot of news. The Memphis Grizzlies appear to be the team that everyone's going to be playing tonight, so we'll kind of go through, and as you can see, screen sharing here with our partner, The Solver, and our projections come preloaded right in here, so we'll kind of go through game by game, see what we can find for this big boy slate.
Yeah, big boy slate, 11 games. Again, appreciate everyone tuning in. If you're not a member yet, head over to SHIPITNation.com, click on join now, and you can join the members over here that continue to win in all sports. MMA, PGA's back in full swing. NBA now, prize pools are going to continue to increase. NHL is getting on ready for the All-Star break here. So I've been knee-deep in the NBA streets pretty much all season long, but really focusing now with, obviously, NFL winding down here. Say hi to a couple people in chat. We got could be Travis in here. Go collect Newens. Our guy Hebrew, who did just publish the slate plan. He does the slate plan over here. Check out his thoughts there. He has that up and ready over there on the website already. So let's jump right in here. New York Knicks and Charlotte. You see it up on the screen there. In terms of news, LaMelo Ball is questionable in this one. Hayward's out. Kyle Lowry's out. Is questionable, not a huge news there. And then Evan Fournier is out. Obviously, the big news here in this one is going to be LaMelo Ball. From an ownership standpoint, a lot of ownership coming here. Quentin Grimes, Josh Hart, as you can see there on the screen. Talk on this one, New York Knicks, Charlotte here. Obviously, Charlotte doesn't play a lick of defense here, so it should be a pretty good game for DFS purposes.
Yeah, I mean, the total pretty moderate, sitting at 22 and then, or 221, I should say. And then the Knicks favored by 10. So they're projected to score 115. No Randall, obviously, here tonight. Jalen Brunson firmly in the conversation, 9,300, a little cheaper than some of these other superstars. Josh Hart probably ends up playing mid-30s, small forward. Power forward eligible, 5,400 though. Very, very nice price tag for him. We have it sorted here by value, and there's a lot of games, obviously. So we're going to have a ton of different options. LaMelo, questionable. That would make this game much more appealing from a DFS perspective. If he were to be ruled out, then we'll start to see some of these Charlotte Hornets guys get bumped up quite a bit. As it stands now with no Randall, Jalen Brunson, a phenomenal play. Josh Hart is a really good play at 5,400. If LaMelo is in, I probably don't play any Charlotte guys on an 11-game slate. If he's out, then we'll come back and circle in some of these Hornets guys. But right now, it's, we don't know. It's a 7 p.m. Eastern game, so we'll have it when the slate locks. But as of now, it's just Brunson and Hart, and I think they're both really good plays. Brunson at 93, like I said, he has the similar upside to those high-end guys for a cheaper price tag. So I do really like him against a team, like you said, that plays no defense. So him and Hart as it stands, nothing on the Hornet side unless Ball were to be ruled out.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I like Brunson quite a bit here. I think he's a pretty solid spin up on the slate. Obviously a good matchup here against Charlotte. Pretty fair price point at 9,300 there. He's been doing good. I believe Randall is out too, right? Randall's still out here. So that definitely helps Brunson here. So I do like that. Dante DiVincenzo, I don't think is the worst play, right? With no Randall, you got more usage going around. Two guys like that on here. Quentin Grimes, I think, is a solid value play here, but obviously there's 11 games, right, that you talked about. Got to compare him to other values on the slate, but he still checks out pretty good for me. We've seen this spot before with a guy like Quentin Grimes here. Just looking at the anticipated starting lineup, doesn't look like he's slotted to start, but should still come off the bench and play mid-20s minutes there. And at that price point at 3,700, really doesn't need to do much, and the matchup is pretty solid for him. So I think he's solid. Definitely my two favorite plays, Jalen Brunson, Quentin Grimes here in this game. I think Josh Hart is fine. I prefer Dante DiVincenzo, I think, over Josh Hart a little bit personally myself. Just a little contrarian spot, similar position, couple $100 more at significantly lower ownership. I mean, you're talking probably a 20% ownership difference there between those two guys. You can't play every chalk spot on the slate, so I don't hate that. But overall, I do think it's a pretty good game to kick us off here. Let's jump into the next game here, Clippers in Cleveland. Overall, not a very appealing game from a DFS perspective here from me personally in this one that I'm looking at. But from a total standpoint, this one sits at 225 here. Pretty close spread. Donovan Mitchell's questionable. Evan Mobley's questionable. So that is big news there, which could make this game more appealing. But as it stands right now, I don't see a ton. But do you see something I'm missing here?
Yeah, so it looks like Mitchell, they upgraded him to probable. So he's good to go. And then and same thing for Mobley. He's expected to play, which kind of goes to your point where it's not a very appealing game. We're going to need on these full slates, you need either a pricing mistake, not a mistake, or a guy that stands out as an elite value because he's priced too low, or some sort of injury or rotation change to really get into a play and make that guy appealing for DFS. We just don't have that on the slate at 9,700 for Mitchell. We just talked about a guy in a previous game that I like way more in Jalen Brunson. Like if I'm deciding between Mitchell and Brunson, like it's definitely Brunson for me. Kawhi and Harden are showing up as decent values, but when you pull up the whole slate, as you'll see here, like even guys, I just want to add everyone back in, like you got to have a very nice value number to be, a standout type play. So, could you, if you're building a lot of lineups, include Kawhi or Harden? Yeah, I'm fine with that. But overall, this is one of the less appealing games. It is 225, the total, close spread. Clippers favored by 1.5, but there's just not much here. Like I said, if I'm looking at a guy like Mitchell, who ranks as the best value for us in this game, I just want Jalen Brunson over him at 9,700. I'd prefer to go up a little bit more as well, opposed to going with a guy like Mitchell. And then, like I said, you can throw Kawhi and Harden in there if you're building a bunch of teams, but if you're building 1, 2, 3, they're not going to be clicks for me. So not a great game for fantasy purposes in my eyes.
Yeah, I tend to agree with you here. Really only for me, contrarian spend up on a guy like Donovan Mitchell at probably sub 5%, just because the ceiling he can have here. Some of the stuff I look at over here, he has an okay look for me personally, but I just don't know if I can get there on an 11-game slate here tonight, to be honest. And there's much better spots to go than this game. So pretty much a stay away game. Can't play all games, Hoop, but let's jump into the next one here. New Orleans Pelicans here and the Boston Celtics, 236.5 total. So one of the highest totals on the slate here. Boston is 9-point favorites at home. In terms of news in this one, we do have some news. Al Horford's questionable. Porzingis is also questionable. Cody Zeller is back for New Orleans. And then Luke Cornett is doubtful for Boston. Not obviously a huge rotation piece there, but the two big pieces of news, right? Porzingis and Al Horford, which would make guys like a Derek White, who's having a good season, be a little bit more intriguing. Obviously would have Jason Tatum be more intriguing if Porzingis and Al Horford were both to miss at sub 10K there. He's pretty much the only one getting ownership in this game right now. But overall, I mean, I just don't know if I can get here, but do you see something I'm missing here?
I mean, the one thing that stands out to me is the price point on Jason Tatum. I mean, we've seen him in the 10K range at points throughout the season. He's down to 92, where, if he goes out and gets you 50 something, you're thrilled with that. I mean, the one thing you definitely need here would be a close game. The spread is 9, so it's a pretty big spread, but the total sitting at 236. Boston's projected to score 122. Like if this game is close, I really feel like Tatum or Brown would be the reason why. Nice thing about a guy like Jaylen Brown is shooting guard, small forward eligible. So you can play him at a bunch of spots on DraftKings: shooting guard, small forward, guard, forward, and utility. So 5 different spots for Jaylen Brown. That's appealing when you get in there and start building out some teams. Porzingis, he was at shoot around. So a lot of times when these questionable guys are participants at shoot around, they typically play. I think he plays, but the Horford news is, not slate changing, but it's important for this game. He still is listed as questionable. Tough spot for the Pelicans guys, and Pelicans are a team that you really need someone to sit out or an injury to get super excited about, especially on an 11-game slate. We just talked about where on these big boy slates, most of the guys are going to be high on should have some sort of circumstance, whether it's a guy out for injury or sitting out or a new role or something along those lines, or a really, really cheap price tag. I'm not seeing a lot of that here with the Pelicans. Zion at 73 looks decent, but I don't know if I'm necessarily going to get there. Tatum at a lower price point than we've seen sometimes throughout the season, and then Jaylen Brown at 7,800, where you can play him guard, forward, and the utility, and then shooting guard and small forward at a lot of different positions. Again, if this game does stay close, I'd expect at least Tatum or Brown to have a really big game.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I'm team Brown over Tatum here tonight. I see Newlan's talking about it in the chat. I just like this matchup for Brown. Get a little bit of a flop leg spot built in, right? He only played 27 minutes against Miami, played 24 minutes against the Clippers. I haven't looked into that, if that was injury related, blowout related, what that was. My hunch seems to be blowout related. Last week was a nightmare with blowouts in the NBA. I got crushed with blowouts pretty much all week long. So hoping that doesn't continue here this week. But I do like this spot here. Jaylen Brown, like you said, the position flexibility is very nice, right? The shooting guard, small forward position, you can obviously play him at a forward or a guard position as well, at kind of those flex positions there. Which I do like quite a bit. The price point is nice at 7,800. He's showing 55, 60 point upside. And I mean, he should be leaned on heavy here. So I do like that. Tatum does have a nice price point. I just prefer Jaylen Brown over Tatum here tonight. I think personally is where I'm going. And then Derek White, I think, has a solid matchup too. 6,700 is a fair price point. He hasn't been as great, right? He kind of fell off a cliff as of late. For a while there, he was absolutely crushing. Played him quite a bit. So thinking this game is pretty much just Jaylen Brown for me, or move on here. I mean, maybe a Larry Nance, right, as a value play there. I mean, we have him projected kind of low 20s, mid 20s if you need kind of a last piece, last value. Not the greatest value by any means, but I think he would be all right there too. But pretty much Jaylen Brown or pass for me in that game. Let's jump into the next one here. We have Utah. We have Brooklyn. Looking at the total in this one, 236.5. So another pretty big total here, just a 1-point spread. So much closer spread in this one. In terms of injury news, Dorian Finney-Smith is out. Day'Ron Sharpe remains out as well. Cam Johnson is back for Brooklyn, which is pretty big. And then Ben Simmons is also back in for Brooklyn. So pretty healthy teams here, but obviously fantasy points against this Utah team have been coming in bunches here. So you see a lot of ownership going to this game, prefer mainly on the Brooklyn side. You got Nick Claxton right at sub 7K there in a pretty solid matchup here at the center position. Mikal Bridges, Cam Thomas, a lot of ownership going to these Brooklyn Nets. And then on the other end, Colin Sexton, who's been playing good, remains sub 7K, coming off a massive game there against Charlotte. Little different matchup here against this defense of the Brooklyn Nets, who are a solid defensive team overall. So touch on this Brooklyn side in particular here. Where are you going?
Yeah, so I mean, you look at the game, a 236 total, Utah favored by 1. There's a lot of guys I think that have fantasy upside in this matchup, in this game, and the price tags are all pretty fair. You're not paying a premium for anyone. Our projections like Nick Claxton, I think he's a really solid play, very safe play, cash type play where you're getting the minutes, 37, 39, 39, 31, 33, 32, and he's paid off the price tag essentially for, I don't know, all since the beginning of January, 36, 45, 35, 34, 48, 36, 31. I think he's a very fine play, 6,900. Cam Thomas coming back, 6K flat. I know the story with him, big upside. Mikal Bridges has had some of these games, and another guy similar to Jaylen Brown. shooting guard, and small forward eligible. You can play him in a lot of different spots. Spencer Dinwiddie, not as excited for a guy like him, but these three at the top, I think, are all playable, and you're not breaking the bank at all. You can get him in there. Now, if you want a little back and forth action, you want someone on the Jazz side, we're thinking it does go to this 236 total, stays close. Sexton, like you said, under 7K, coming off a big game where he had 54 fantasy points. But prior to that, you'll take 43 for a 6,900 guy. You'll take 45 for a 6,900 guy. I think definitely in the conversation. And then even Markkanen, same thing. He's got the 50 fantasy point upside, and the price is at a point now where if he does hit that 50 upside, you take it at 8,200. Like, that's definitely good. He's significantly cheaper than the high end, super expensive guys. So I think we have a lot of different plays here. It's an 11 game slate. Obviously, you're going to need big scores tonight. I mean, you're going to have big scores. And these guys, all that I mentioned, have the 50 fantasy point upside, and they're not 10K or 11K. Like, they're 69, 72, 69, 82. So these guys offer, I think, GPP winning upside at a potentially discounted rate. I mean, if this does hold true and it is a close competitive game and it's in that 235 range, I could definitely see a couple of these guys being on the winner tonight. So definitely interested in the spot and those guys that I specifically mentioned.
Yeah, no, excellent breakdown. I do think if Dorian Finney-Smith is out here, it definitely hurts the defense big time of this Nets team, right? He's a great defender there. And looking at it, I mean, I think they rank dead last in defensive rating with Dorian Finney-Smith out of that lineup. And on the other end, Utah's been one of the worst defensive teams, especially in transition, all season long, and this game could turn into a track meet very, very quickly. The prices are fair on all these guys, especially in that mid-tier, right? I see guys talking about Spencer Dinwiddie. I mean, that guy's cheeks, but he is 5'3" in a game where you expect to go up and down. He's going to play his mid-30s minutes and take the shot. So I get it, right, Newlands? I see you talking about it in the chat, but I mean, he's still taking 6 to 8 3-point attempts, or 4 to 6, you should say, right? With the ceiling of 8 to 10 3-pointers. He's taking double-digit shots in a matchup here against Utah, which is a good matchup, so I don't hate it. What does Ben Simmons do to this team? Obviously, that is a piece, right? He is probable with that back to play here. Royce O'Neal at 4K flat, I think, is a solid play as well. On the Utah side, I really like Jordan Clarkson, flop leg here at 6'3". He's going to play his low 30s minutes to upper 30s. He's showing 50-plus upside here, and at 6'3", you just don't get a guy that is at 6'3", right, that has 55, 60-point upside, especially in a matchup here against Brooklyn. So I don't mind Jordan Clarkson. Only issue is shooting guard eligible only is kind of tough. That's why I do think Colin Sexton becomes a little bit higher owned there at a higher price point, just because you can play him at the point guard position as well. But I do like Jordan Clarkson. Overall, I think this game is very intriguing for DFS. I expect this game to stay close. Cameron Johnson, I think, is a solid play. Cam Thomas is a solid play. I do think Dinwiddie's an all right play just at that price. I mean, the usage is going to be there. The shot attempts are going to be there. The three-point attempts are going to be there. If, God forbid, some of these three-point attempts go in, unlike they have been, I mean, he'll get you he could get you 40 points, right? And at 5'3", he gets you 35 to 40. You're happy with that on this slate. So I do think he's a solid play. Overall, I like this game a ton for GPPs. I just think it's going to be back and forth. Not a lot of defense played, and both these teams, especially if Dorian Finney-Smith is out right for Brooklyn, I just think this game becomes much more intriguing as well for DFS purposes. So definitely a good game here at that 30 time slot to kick us off as well. Jumping to the last 30 minute time slot here. Obviously, you got two games locked in right at the start of the slate there, and then you got three more games here at the 30-minute mark. Last one, Phoenix, Miami here in this one. 230 total, just a 3-point spread. In terms of news in this one, Bradley Beal is in here tonight. Eric Gordon is back as well. Bobo remains out, which isn't huge news. And then, so basically the only piece of news here is Jusuf Nurkic is questionable. Deadly matchup no matter what. I mean, for whoever starts here, for whether it's Nurkic or whether you get a Eubanks, whether you get one of these guys from the Suns starting, going up against Bam Adebayo is just not a good matchup at all. So I don't really think that becomes into effect too much. pretty much only Tyler Hero in this game is projected to get some ownership just at that $6,700 price point. You've seen the ceiling he had. Overall, not a ton I see. Basically, both these teams fully healthy, right? The Miami's pretty much fully healthy here. And then outside of Nurkic, I mean, the Suns pretty much have everyone in there with Beal back. So overall, kind of a stay away spot. But do you see anyone here in this game, Phoenix, Miami?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you. I mean, you look at the game and you see 230 total. Miami favored by 3, close spread. You think you want some interest, but I don't know. There's just too many guys on both sides that contribute fantasy wise. And on an 11, like on a 5-game slate, yeah, you can get away with coming here and playing some of these guys. On an 11-game slate, I don't know if there's enough to necessarily go around. If I'm going to play anyone here, I'd probably just go with like a guy like Tyler Hero at the $6,700 price tag, relatively cheap. He has the upside. Don't really see myself getting to Bam at the 8-1. And then, a guy like Devin Booker, you can break the slate any night for sure. But I just don't necessarily like him tonight. This will be a fade game for me. I'm not really seeing anything. Again, the only guy I'd potentially go with would be Tyler Hero.
Yeah, so it looks like we just got, let me just see, looks like we just got Dorian Finney-Smith news, right? He's going to be out. At least that's what I see in the chat. I don't know if that's confirmed or not. I haven't seen it come across on Underdog, but if he is out, I do like that game quite a bit. I just don't think there's going to be a lick of defense played in that game. So that would, obviously that's last game. But in terms of this game, pretty much the only 2 plays I would keep in my pool here are Tyler Hero and Devin Booker. Personally, just because the ceiling, right? Devin Booker, like you said it, right? He can go out and break any slate he's on. I mean, he just went for 81 against Indiana, just went for 65 against Dallas, right? And just went for 60 last game, basically against Orlando, which is obviously a good defensive team in general there. So he's always in contention. 9-8, I don't know. I don't love it, but MME, you always got to keep a guy like that in your pool, in my opinion. And then Tyler Hero at that price point, I just think he has a ceiling there. It's more of a tournament play. I don't know if I get to him in 2 to 3 max like I play, but in MME 20 max, things like that, I do think he's a solid guy to keep in there in this spot. So pretty much just those 2 guys for me. All right, let's talk about this next one here, Memphis and Sacramento. In terms of this game, obviously this is a pretty good game for DFS here. 223.5 is the total. 9.5 point favorites for Sacramento in this one, but we do have a lot of news here. Luke Kennard is out. Conchar's doubtful. Derrick Rose is out for Memphis. Vince Williams questionable. Zaire Williams is doubtful. And then on the Sacramento side, really no injury news at all. So the Sacramento side fully healthy, but on this Memphis side, these guys are very, very depleted. So say hello to guys like Gregory Jackson back in our lives, David Roddy back in our lives, Jacob Gilyard back in our lives, the good old Scottie Pippen Jr. back in our lives. Got a lot of value coming from the Memphis side. I think a lot of teams are going to have probably 2 to 3 of these Memphis values to make the studs, right? Got a lot of studs on the slate with 11 games. So break it down, Hoop. All the ownership in this game, specifically on the Memphis side, due to basically their whole team, which has already been shorthanded, even more shorthanded now with a lot of these secondary guys also out now. So you're into the third string, the deep bench guys now that are going to be thrumped into a ton of minutes here at cheap salaries. So break this one down for me.
Yeah, it's a spot that, just going to have to come to. I mean, they have 9 guys, potentially 8 guys. Looks like maybe 8 guys. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, so they're going to have 8 guys essentially dressed tonight. That's one of those situations where I don't care if they get their ass kicked. Like, someone's going to do something. They're still projected to score 106 points. Like, even if they lose this game, they're going to score points. You need exposure to someone on this team, probably multiple guys. And you get the question of, how many is too many? And I don't know. I think the right number is probably 3 in the large field stuff. And then in some of the smaller field stuff, you can probably get away with playing 4. In cash games, you're going to want to take a look at multiple of these guys. They are going to be some of the higher owned guys on the slate. So you got to kind of figure out what to do. We need to see the starting lineup as well. So it's a very dynamic situation, but all these guys are firmly in the conversation. Jaren Jackson, the one mainstay name kind of that people know and will play. All these other guys definitely in the conversation. Kind of want to see the starters. They'll have the first crack at, going out there and doing some damage. Now, in terms of guys on the Kings that I want, not too much for me here. Like, Sabonis at 10-2. I don't necessarily love that. De'Aaron Fox at 8-8. Don't necessarily love that, but there is some merit to, if you are playing a bunch of Grizzlies guys, to keep some of these Kings in the player pool, because ultimately you do want a competitive game. You do want the back and forth for sure. So, maybe I keep Sabonis in there. Should be low, and he's looking like we have him at like 5, De'Aaron Fox at 3. So easy, especially for MMEing, to get overweight on the key Kings guys, which are the guys that have the potential to keep this game close. Scottie Pippen at 3-5. He's going to be popular. You have to take a look at some of these Grizzlies guys. Again, probably 3 in the large field stuff. I think you can probably get away with 4 in some of the smaller field stuff, but a very appealing spot for fantasy. Obviously, this is what you want in NBA DFS. Only 8 bodies, all the main guys out. You come here and load up.
Yeah, I do think this, Memphis could even have 7 guys here, right? If Vince Williams were to miss as well, which obviously he's projected to start, right? The projected starters right now are Gilliard, Vince Williams at the 2, Roddy at the 3, Aldama at the 4, and then Jaren Jackson Jr. at the 5. Obviously, Jaren Jackson would be pretty much the standalone guy that's left on the skeleton squad, right? With all these guys out for Memphis. He's 8-1. He has foul trouble concerns like every time he's on the court. Going up against Sabonis isn't the greatest spot. For me, I think I like these other cheaper guys that are going to play no matter how this game goes. I think if this game does get out of hand, which it very well could be here, a fully healthy King squad, right, with other guys like Kevin Huerter playing well, Harrison Barnes playing well, Keegan Murray playing well, this game could get out of hand quickly. I think if one of the guys is going to get yanked, it's going to be Jaren Jackson Jr. over these other scrubs in here. So I think he's my least favorite. I really like Roddy, really like Gilliard. Scottie Pippen Jr. at 3-5. We've seen him, what he did the other night, right, when he came in due to that injury with Kennard, I believe. He came in and played 24 minutes, took 7 shots, did make a 3-pointer, picked up 6 rebounds, 6 assists. So there is a little bit of a kind of outlier performance there. I don't know if he's going to be crashing the boards like that and dishing the rock like a poor man's Tyrese Halliburton out there again, but he's 3,500 here, going to play minutes no matter what. And these guys they have 7 guys, right? 8 guys if Vince Williams plays. And if this game blows out, the first 2 guys that are sitting down is Jaren Jackson Jr. and Vince Williams. So these other guys are going to have to play no matter what. They just don't have anyone left. So I think all these guys are safe. Really like Roddy, really like Jacob Gilliard. Scottie Pippen's probably my 3rd favorite. And then Gregory Jackson, I think, is a solid option as well at small forward, power forward. And then on the other side, I like Harrison Barnes. 4-8 here in this matchup. He should play his low 30s to mid 30s minutes, and he's been crushing. I don't know if you've seen, he's taken 20 shots, 24 shots, 11 shots, 8 3-pointers, 12 3-pointers, 7 3-pointers. Now gets a matchup here against basically a G League squad here in Memphis. I like Harrison Barnes at 4-8 on the other side. And then the other guy I like as well is Keegan Murray here. He's got a very good matchup here at 6-1. Keegan Murray's showing a ceiling as well, which I do like. And Keegan Murray's going to play all the minutes he can handle. So for me, I'm off kind of the studs for in Sabonis and Fox. And I like these cheaper mid-tier guys in Keegan Murray, Harrison Barnes, and Kevin Huerter is kind of where I'm going for Sacramento. But overall, very good game here. Not the highest total, but again, injuries lead to I weigh injury news more in rotations and minutes than I do Vegas totals. So very, very good game from DFS. Not going to be sneaky by any means, but you can you're definitely going to have some pieces from this game for sure. Let's jump into the next game. Another pretty solid game here, Hoop. It's Washington, San Antonio, 241.5. So highest total on the slate, I believe. And just a 4-point spread here. You got to talk about it. Victor Wembanyama here against Washington. Wemby's sub 9K against Washington, who plays absolutely zero defense here. So are you going to get to a Wemby? I see some guys talking about Luka build in the chat, or more like a balanced build where maybe your highest priced guy is a Victor Wembanyama. Obviously, we have a ton of value there in Memphis, but overall, a very good game here for DFS, in my opinion. Pretty much the only injury news in this one is Zach Collins is questionable. Obviously, if he were to miss, gives some boost to some of these other guys from the San Antonio side, but very good game here. Where are you going?
Yeah, big total, massive total, close spread. And if you look at I want to bring all the games back into the conversation here. And Wembanyama is shown as a massive value, like a great value on the slate, 8,900. Been playing very well, very productive fantasy wise. Yeah, he's going to be owned. I mean, someone put in the chat that he's going to be chalk. I mean, he's going to be very popular. There's no doubt about it. I mean, he's been a 50 fantasy point machine lately, and he's 8,900, 52, 51, 55, 49. 50, had the 60 spot a couple weeks ago. Definitely in play here for fantasy purposes tonight. And again, like him a lot. Their team's projected to score 123 real life points. And he's going to have a big game tonight, I feel for sure. And again, you're getting it at a discounted rate. So I think he's definitely a clear option after him. Where else can you look in this game? We like our projections like Kuzma. Fine going to him. The other guy that's kind of popping up as getting some ownership is this fella here, Cool Bally or whatever. But 31 minutes last game, 24 fantasy points. He is 4.3K. Yeah, showing up at like 13%. And then the other guys to potentially look at here would be the Spurs guys in the middle, Jones, Vassell, Sokan. I think at least one of these guys has a pretty big game, like Trey Jones, 30, 46 mixed in there. Vassell, what can we expect out of him? Has a 42, has a 40. I think, Victor gets there, and then, probably one of these other guys, pick your poison, a 58 for SoCan. So I like him. Another one of these guys I think is fine. Kuzma, all solid options, but it's the big total close spread that we want, and the Spurs are projected to score 123. So a lot of interest here in this one.
Yeah, you get the battle of Tyus and Trey, right? Going back and forth here. Tyus has been playing pretty good basketball at 6'3". I don't hate him. On the other side, he should be pretty low owned here against Mr. Trey on the other side for San Antonio. For me, in my opinion, Victor's very good chalk here. Washington just doesn't play any defense. Victor does it all. Blocks, assists, rebounds, points. He's pretty much a lock here, in my opinion, for a double-double at 8,900. And he could have potential for a triple-double, right? Picks up a couple more assists. He's definitely live for a triple-double. You just don't get too many players like that at sub 9K. The only issue is he's pretty much capped at around 30 minutes here. But it is a very, very good matchup. Washington doesn't play any defense, so I think Victor's very good chalk here. I do like him a ton. And then my second favorite piece, I think, in this game from the Spurs side is actually going to be Jeremy Sochan here. 5,700, slotted to start at the 4 here. He's shown tons of upside, right? Went for 58 against Portland, but even in other matchups, just last time he played this Washington team, he went for 39, played 28 minutes there. He's going to get his minutes. I like Sochan at 5,700, so those are my two favorite plays. And then on the Washington side, you can always play Kyle Kuzma just for his ceiling performance, right? He's been playing pretty solid as well as of late. Just went for basically 50 DraftKings points against your Detroit Pistons there. Now gets an all right matchup here against the Spurs. So Tyus Jones and Kuzma for me, and then Wemby and Sochan on the Spurs side is kind of where I'm looking in this game. And I see our guy Hebrew, you threw it up on the chat there. Koulibaly and Wemby played together in France and love playing against each other. Best friend narrative. Man, our guy Hebrew, how sharp is he? Man, he just gets all the narrative streets out here. He's looking into these freaking international European leagues and stuff and figuring this out. So, hey, maybe a Koulibaly, right, at 4-3. He's getting some ownership, but the ownership really doesn't matter. Personally, at that price, he should play his upper 20s, low 30s minutes in a game that should be pretty good for DFS. So I don't hate that. And if you want to throw the narrative street in there, maybe you see a little Koulibaly, Wembanyama back and forth game, right? You don't hear that too much here when you're breaking down NBAs. But hey, I do think this is a pretty solid game overall for sure. Let's jump into the next game here. Minnesota OKC. In terms of this game, 224 total, just a 2.5 point spread. So close spread. In terms of injury news here, Mike Conley is questionable in this game. Trey Mann's back for OKC. That's pretty much the extent of the injury report. Obviously, if Mike Conley misses, got to talk about Nickeil Alexander-Walker and some of those other guys that we've been playing lately. But overall, if he's in, this game's pretty much a cross-off game for me. I don't think I'm getting to any of this game. Two very good defensive teams here overall. I think this is a better real-life game than DFS game. 11 games. This one's I'm crossing off, but do you see something I don't?
Yeah, it's kind of in the same boat here. I mean, I guess you could maybe make the case for like an Anthony Edwards at 85. He's a little. We talked about a lot of guys in that 9K range. He's a little bit cheaper, offers the upside. SGA, don't see myself getting there. Our projections kind of like Towns and Gobert. I just don't see myself getting there. At the end of the day, yeah, this game will be a fade for me. And again, 11 games, you don't want to try to get exposure to everything, every spot, find fade in a game, and this is one I won't have any of.
Great breakdown here. This next game here, Lakers Houston, 233 total, just a 1-point spread. And we got the standard Anthony Davis, LeBron James, permanent questionable tags, basically questionable probable tags, is kind of how you just approach that. Outside of that, Jabari Smith is back for Houston. Terry Eason remains out. So basically two fully healthy squads here again. All right, can you get up to a 10K Anthony Davis, who's been obviously good all season long? LeBron James at 9,400 there. Close spread, pretty decent total. In terms of ownership, really nobody in this game getting a ton of ownership. Where are you going? Do you like any plays here, Lakers, Houston?
Another game that is not super appealing. I mean, you have mostly healthy teams for the most part. You do have the relatively big total sitting at 233. Houston favored by 1. There's just not really much for me in this game. My favorite play is going to be D'Angelo Russell at 7K flat. I think it's a good price tag. He has that upside. He's been playing really well, 45. His overtime, obviously, 42. 51, 54, 34. So he's been paying off his price tag or really exceeding it. 7K flat. Like I'm in on that. And I don't know, like nothing else really stands out. Another game that I will be way, way underweight on. If Anthony Davis is in and I can find a way to get to him, maybe get a little bit, prefer him over. We talked about SGA last game. Definitely prefer Anthony Davis over him at a similar price point. But again, another game that I'm not all that interested in.
Yeah, I like D'Angelo Russell actually quite a bit here at 7K flat. I mean, he's playing all the minutes he can handle. He's taken close to 20 shot attempts and double-digit three-point attempts in 3 of the last 4 games. He's shooting well. He's picking up some assists, and now gets a pretty good spot here, above average matchup overall. Projected to play 37 minutes at 7K. I really, really like D'Angelo Russell here. He is point guard eligible only, but again, there is a guard spot you can play him at as well. I like him a ton here at 7K. He should be sub 5% owned. We talked about liking a lot of chalk here, Hoop. This is one way to differentiate here. I just don't see a ton of people going to him. And you click on that game log, not that you want to be a game log watcher here. He's been playing well. He's going to get the minutes here. This game should stay close. High total here. Pretty good spot. So I do like D'Angelo Russell quite a bit here in tournaments for sure. Let's talk about the next one here, and we got to talk about it, right? Luka, 11-8, projected to get a lot of ownership here. He's gone for 83, 63, 101.5, and 75.5. I mean, you want to pull up that game log. Pretty much the only other guy that's getting anywhere near is Giannis to an extent, but really Joel Embiid. 11-8 for Luka here in this one. Is it a Luka night? We do have all the value in the world with the Memphis, but overall, 227.5 total, just a 4.5 point spread here. It's pretty much Luka, the only spot going to get any ownership in this game here. Are you getting to Luka? You have the value to do it, but you're going to miss out on guys like more mid-tier build, right? With a Russell, a Wembanyama, some of those value plays, some of those loaded mid-tiers we already talked about, but hard to ignore a guy that has 100-point upside, which is very rare to say in today's NBA.
It is crazy, to say that a guy has literally 100-point fantasy point upside, just absolutely insane, but it's the case. And you look at it, bringing back all these games, he's the top-rated value at 11.8K. Can we make it work on an 11-game slate? Hell yeah, we can. We have a lot of value plays that we can play. So if you are building multiple lineups, I think it's very simple. You find a way to get Luka into some lineups. I mean, you don't want to fading the best fantasy player in the NBA to end your night. And it's easy to get him in. We have a lot of value, potential value in this game. If you look a little bit like, Jonathan Isaac is another guy to throw in the mix at 3,800. I mean, again, at 3,800, it's not necessarily, what they do. It's what it allows your lineups to get. He's going to play low 20s in terms of minutes, and he can get into the 20 fantasy point range. So he's a potential value in this game. But man, yeah, I want Luka for sure. The one thing you need to be careful of, a lot of Luka builds are going to look similar. It's going to be Luka with a bunch of those Grizzlies guys, and then whatever else kind of fits in. But man, it's a very tough fade, and I do want exposure. We have them coming in around 26%. Seems pretty reasonable. But yeah, I definitely want Luka, and maybe a little bit of Isaac as another value play, but nothing else here for me.
Yeah, I mean, there is a lot of news here too. I did miss the news, right? Obviously, Kyrie Irving remains out, right? That's kind of why you've been seeing Luka play into the upper 30s, right? 40 plus minutes in those overtime games. He's playing all the minutes he can handle here. Dante Exum is questionable as well. Derek Jones is questionable. Powell's questionable. Markelle Fultz on the Orlando side is questionable. So, I mean, guys like Exum and Derek Jones, Powell, those guys from Dallas, I mean, that's even more usage, right? I mean, I don't know how much more usage rate can go up. I mean, he's got to have a 40+% usage rate right now with this team. But yeah, I mean, right now, basically the builds are going to go Victor Wembanyama, Luka, Memphis value, and then fill out the other two pieces basically in your rosters, kind of how the standard optimizer builds are running, at least looking at right now. So question, maybe you don't play, if you're playing a Luka, maybe you don't play a Wemby, right? And just get a little different like that, because most of the teams are going to have Luka, Wemby, all that Memphis value, and then fill out whatever your other pieces are in there. So Luka, great play. I'm probably going to play him on one team, fade on the other is kind of how I'm going to approach it. I'm going to look at maybe playing Luka without a Wembanyama, just because I do think those two are very going to come probably preloaded in a bunch of teams. So that is one talking point, but there's pretty much nothing bad to say about Luka here in this spot for him. On the Orlando side, not a ton of interest here overall. I mean, you could pull some guys from here, but it's just not too appealing from a DFS perspective. It's basically Luka or pass in this spot for me, and I do think obviously Luka is a very, very good play in this game. Let's jump into the last game here of the slate. It's Milwaukee and Denver here. Denver at home. We got two more studs in this game here. From an injury standpoint, Giannis is probable. Chris Middleton's back. Basically, both these squads fully healthy here. And you do have some ownership coming here for some of the value plays, right, on the Denver side. Reggie Jackson, Peyton Watson. Nikola Jokic is going to get a little ownership here. I prefer Luka at a $500 price difference there, but it is Jokic at home here in an all right matchup against the Bucks. Giannis on the other end, right? Another low-owned stud at a similar price point that's shown 80+ point upside here as well. Two studs in this game. Outside of that, I mean, Jamal Murray has a good matchup here, point guards against the Bucks. Do you see any plays here in this late night last game of the slate?
It's tough it's a tough spot. I did want to show real quick. I built a team that's going to be a very common type build here, not the full team, but just put in some pieces. We got Luka, we got Wembanyama, and then I just picked 3 random Memphis guys. You're going to see these builds very, very popular, like you kind of touched on. It still has $5,700 left, so you don't even have to dig super deep into the value range to finish this team out. You're going to see a lot of builds like this: Luka, Wembanyama, and Memphis guys. So, I mean, the play is clearly to, take a guy like Wembanyama out, find someone else in that range if you want to, get on a Luka team. But this is going to be a very, very common build on the slate. In terms of this game, Milwaukee and Denver, it's hard to play these guys over Luka. I mean, look at the guys that Luka's playing with on the court. I mean, Giannis has respectable guys out there with him. Jokic has respectable guys. Luka has nothing, and that's why we're seeing the big time fantasy output from him right now. So it is hard to click these guys' name, but the ownership probably doesn't follow. As you can see, Jokic substantially lower owned, Giannis basically 3% owned. I still want Luka over these guys. Jamal Murray, 83. Yeah, maybe a little bit. But again, it's like two healthy teams. And we talked about it on the slate, 11 games. You want those injury situations. You want the role changing situations. I mean, it's tough to get on these healthier type teams. But if you have a strong read and, you want to go one of these two studs over Luka, you're immediately going to be a little bit different. So definitely way to go. Probably not so much for me. Don't really love this game all that much. Fun game to watch, though. Fun game to watch. Not great for fantasy. We had another one like that earlier. I can't remember what it was, but similar situation to that.
Yeah. I agree with you here. I was just looking at the little game logs between Giannis and Jokic here in Denver. Giannis hasn't cracked 60 in Denver since 2020. And now he has obviously Dame with him. He's got Middleton. He's got it's just a different Bucks team, obviously. And then Jokic, same thing, hasn't surpassed 60 against this squad at home. Obviously, that's not all encompassing, but when you're comparing it to a guy like Luka, who, to Hebrew's point in the chat, is playing literally every minute this guy can handle, whether that's 45 minutes or whatever, right? He's literally running out there for every minute with literally scrubs next to him. So they're literally passing him the ball. I get it. I see some talks of Orlando being a very good defensive team, right? They are a very good defensive team. They're going to crash on Luka, but so is every other team, right? As of late, and Luka has gone for 80 plus 100, right? Like, I mean, the situation hasn't changed, right? Other teams know when Kyrie's out that Luka's the only guy on the squad, and he still goes out there and does what Luka does. So in this game, pretty much the only guy I would get to here is Jamal Murray, just from a matchup standpoint. I like Jamal Murray here at home too. I don't hate it. It's just point guards against this Bucks team have crushed all season. I really like Jamal here if you can get to him at 8-3. So maybe, I mean, if you want to flip it, right, Wembanyama, obviously it's a different position, but 8-9, right? If you want to get a little bit different, play a Jamal Murray, right, at the guard position, point guard position. Play a different power forward at that spot. Play more of a mid-tier power forward instead of Wemby. That's just one way you can get different with that Luka build, right, with those Memphis values at a very similar price with a guy that also has a ceiling, right? Jamal Murray does have a ceiling. It is a good matchup here. So that's pretty much the only play for me in this game is Jamal Murray, just a little bit different roster construction build. I think Peyton Watson's a fine value play. I prefer Peyton Watson over Reggie Jackson. I just don't know on an 11-game slate if I can click a guy's name, Reggie Jackson. Personally, I just can't do it. So Peyton Watson at the power forward position, I think he's a fine value play. Should play low 20s minutes, 3,400, not the worst value play in the world. So Jamal Watson for me. On the other side, pretty much no Bucks tonight for me personally. But that's all 11 games. Hoop, any final thoughts for the people? You want to give a play of the day, or what do you want to do?
Yeah. So final thoughts are it's 11-game slate, obviously, to kick off the week. It's big. A lot of different ways to go. We have our projections loaded up, updated as of 20 some minutes ago. If you follow the link and get the solver, our projections will come preloaded over here on the solver. So all our content will be going up soon. We get it out nice and early, so you're able to get in there and digest it. So head on over to SHIPITNation.com. Play of the day is going to be someone that you kind of talked me into. I kind of overlooked a little bit. We know we're playing a lot of Grizzlies guys, kind of have to. And I like the Keegan Murray play at 6,100. I kind of overlooked it when I talked about it, but you're getting a ton of minutes here, a lot of minutes. And they're going up against a team where we're going to have a lot of Grizzlies guys, and it does make sense to have something on the King side. Give me Keegan Murray, and I like the Harrison Barnes call as well. So I think those two guys are plays today here for me.
I like that too. I'm going to give the people 2 plays a day at the same position, depending on what one you can afford. Going back to that last game, I talked about it, 8,300 Jamal Murray. I just think he has a ceiling in this spot. It's a great matchup. And then at the same position in that Lakers game, right, it's not Anthony Davis, it's not LeBron James, it's D'Angelo Russell at 7K. Both point guards, I think one, obviously $1,300 difference there. If you can't get to one, I like the other, but I like both of those guys quite a bit. Obviously with the Luka, with the Memphis value, those other guys we already talked about. But overall, as you mentioned, our slate plan is live over here. We'll have our cores up for the people nice and early. Obviously, those change with NBA as news comes out, but we at least get a skeletal core up there early for the people making their teams. And then once projections update, we update those as soon as we have them. They go on our solver partner over here. You can get that package along with our package to the site at, I believe, around $120, which is unheard of for an optimizer, and a site that covers every sport for you. So head over to SHIPITNation.com, click on join now if you're not a member yet, and get in the best community in the industry. But that's going to do it for this edition of the NBA show here for this Monday 11-game slate, January 29th. Good luck tonight in your contest. Hope to see those Ship It Nation logos at the top. For Hoop, I'm Nadesify. Let's ship it.